I came on board with Cookies back in February, and since then we've been doing like data-driven apps, mostly for the web. But recently we started working with mobile apps, and it's been a ton of fun working with Ionic. Because we didn't have to learn any new languages. We just jumped in there, and it was quite fun. There is not a lot of structure here. I just thought we'd just jump in there and just try different things, and hopefully, that always goes well. So to quickly begin with, I just want to give you an idea of why Ionic exists and what is its place in in mobile architecture. There are kind of two types of mobile apps mostly. You got the native apps, and these are apps that are developed in the languages provided by the manufacturers. So for Android, for example, it's Java, and you develop your app with Java and use the Android SDK, which provides you with APIs to write your app. And if you wanted that app on, say, on iPhone, you have to then go to Apple, get their SDK, and develop the app for that, and Windows and so on. This is okay. Most people do this because you can write very detailed and specific apps for specific devices, which is good. But for the most part, a lot of things you need for like a lot of the apps out there, you don't need it to be specific for devices. You can just run it on any platform. Like websites, for example, you can run it on any website, any laptop, it doesn't matter. So this is where Ionic kind of fits in. Ionic is kind of like a hybrid app, and what that just means is you build it with one kind of source code, and you can compile it to any iPhone and Android, and it will just run as it would, like it was a native app. Let's see if this actually would work. Let me help demonstrate it properly. So this is essentially what it is. Pretend you have I think that's okay. So pretend you have your phone there like that. So this is the phone. This is the mobile operating system. Everything runs on here. Devices, cameras, web, everything is in there. So if you wrote an app, your app will say sits there. Let's just change the color so you can see that. So this would be your native app, for example, and this would be the APIs that the phone provides for you to effectively write your app. So this could be, say, turn on the camera, or turn on the GPS, get me these coordinates, orientation, all stuff like that. And it works really well. If you want to do this, you unfortunately have to learn Java. But mostly no one has time to learn Java, so there is an alternative. This is Ionic, or hybrid apps, kind of work like this. So you have, so you have, again, the phone, which sits on top of it, and then you have your APIs. Again, they don't go away. So this is the one provided by the manufacturer, like the Android SDK. But then there is another layer, which is the very crucial layer that makes Ionic happen. And this layer is Cordova. Cordova, simply put, is just a bunch of libraries that stick together your app and the platform which is running on. So Cordova is like a kind of middleman, taking in your request and kind of converting them. And then you have your app, which sits at the very top of this. And this isn't so much an app, more of like a web view, because it is a website effectively you're running. If you create an Ionic app, you can theoretically run it in a browser. This just allows you to run it on phones. So the advantage, the disadvantages to this, first of all, is you didn't used to be able to do a lot with the web view. Like you can't turn on the camera, for example, because it exists in the web. But now, with the advances in JavaScript, you can do so much more with Cordova. You can get the battery levels, you can turn on the camera, you can get GPS, but practically anything you want to do with the phone, you can. And this is great for web developers, because we too can develop apps now we don't have to get a Java specialist to create apps. So that's how Ionic fits into this architecture. So if you like to think about it, this is Ionic. This is the Cordova, which as you get to develop with Ionic, you find out more about. And this is the mobile operating system, which you never hardly even need to know anything about. I hope everyone got Ionic up and running in some form. That's quite dark, actually. Let me just see if you can. Is that readable? Let me take the light. Oh, okay. How do I? That better? Try again. Yeah? A bit more? Yeah? Do we need to go further? Yeah? Good? Anybody who can't see that?
I'd say bigger, actually.
Yeah.
The screen make it really hard to read it.
Okay.
It's stuck off from the projector.
Yeah, the projector is really not
Do we need to go in any further? All right. Okay. So I'm a recent converter to Vim, so please bear with me. I'm too far gone with Sublime. I can't go back now, so I've got to just stick with Vim. So to start off with, we're just gonna. Who doesn't have Ionic running? Just a few people. Try and follow along, hopefully. But there is a blog post we'll be making, which will have most of what we cover in this talk on. So you could follow along. I don't have any plan here, so let's just jump in there and have some fun. So yeah, let's just try and scaffold kind of the different apps, which they're called more like templates, which the guys at Ionic kindly provides. These templates are good in the sense that you can get up and running with them, and there's no hassle with them. There's a blank template, there is a tab view template, and there is I think a slider menu template. So I haven't played so much with that one yet. But essentially, it's just scaffolds the app for you, so you can just start development straight away. I think I need a new folder for this. Right, let's just go in there. So it's when you type in Ionic, we get the nice help view. So these are all the kind of like things that helps when you're developing your apps. So you can when you start an app, you can see what it's like. Start an app and it will scaffold it to like a path or folder. You can serve the app and all stuff like that. These are quite handy mostly. And if anyone has developed with like Ruby or Ruby on Rails or any other Laravel, for example, will be quite familiar with this way of working, generating resources and kind of working with that. It's very similar to this. So we want to start. That's the place we begin. So we just type in Ionic. Now this accepts a few. Can you read that at the bottom? No? Maybe if I make it really, really bright. Can I do preferences? Where is the Is it? Sorry, I mostly use. That's yeah. There we go. Now for the color. Hopefully that's better. Right, there we go. Okay. I hope that doesn't save as a default. So yeah, you start. There are a few like kind of options you get essentially with Ionic, and these are just to kind of tell you, give it and say this is my app, make it with this command. And the first one is just the application name, and it's just a flag you type in, and then you type in the application name. So I don't know. Let's just do example. And then maybe we're going to do multiple of these. And then the kind of next one you get is the identifier for the app. Mostly is, I don't know if you've ever developed any form of app on, like with Java. If you're a Java developer here, the identifier normally comes in like for Android, most of the default is like com.android. Whatever your app is. It's like a reverse domain name, effectively, if you want to think about it that way. But an identifier name, again, with an I flag. So these are quite easy to remember this. The A is just your app name. The I is the identifier for it, and that could be the app. I don't know, something like that. That could be as simple as an identifier, really. And then the next one is the folder you want to dump it all in. This probably won't work because I haven't created a folder yet, but this, rarely you need to do this. I'll show you a workflow we use. I haven't typed in this command since I did it the first time, but afterwards there's a framework a set of libraries we use called Ionic, which generates apps for us. It does all this for us. We just tell it what to do. So if things go wrong, that's why. So yeah, let's just dump it in the example folder. And then the last flag is what kind of template we want to use. So for now, let's just start with the very first one, the blank template, and let's have a look at what that gives us. It will probably say the folder doesn't exist. Oh, it will create a folder. Oh, that's cool. Right, so it pulls it from GitHubs. The templates are on GitHubs as well, if you want to go and have a look at it. They're very well explained. And there's tons of like tests on there as well, which I very much advise you do with Ionic, because it can get crazy if you don't write tests. That is taking a bit longer than I anticipated. Hopefully. Is everyone doing this? Is that why it's...
I'm getting an error. Cannot find module config chain.
Oh, yeah. Is that Windows?
No, it's Ubuntu.
Oh. Should be okay. Is Ionic installed properly?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was, but
Yeah.
Anybody else getting any errors, or is it just... Pardon? You got the same error?
Yeah.
I have never encountered that error before, so I have...
we just follow it.
Hopefully the other ones don't take this long.
Go on input, then maybe devices. So apparently that's what sorts it out, and you can enable then use bigger resolutions on the screen. But whenever I've installed the guest edition,
Has anyone finished doing this? Is it done it for anyone? No?
That's how you
Yeah? Yeah?
What is that?
Anyone on this screen? Yeah? All right, cool. So, yeah, I mean, for now, just say no to this question. But there you go. Effectively, that's a blank template there, ready to go. If I just scroll up a bit, it gives you little tiny quick tips, which that makes sense. And if you want to follow these tips, they're quite straightforward. We'll be doing this in a second. So we're just gonna seed into our app and have a look at what the files is created for us. We're gonna skip the SAS bit, and then we're just gonna serve it and in the browser, and hopefully it should do something. All right. So is that the bottom? No, that's the bottom. So if we just, I think it created example one. That's it. No. Right, let's just go in there, and then we do, right. This never seemed to work first time, but let's fingers crossed. Okay, it did something, but it did it over here. Is it going to come across? Yeah, there we go. There you go. You should see that, a blank template with Ionic. Everybody can get onto this at least and just have something up and running.
What command did you use?
Sorry, Ionic serve.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the command. No, that's not a good idea. And you should get to this.
So when you're doing Ionic serve, is that basically running the app in the browser?
Yeah.
It's not emulating it.
It's not emulating it, no, because essentially it is. Ionic is just it's HTML and CSS and JavaScript. So it emulates it in the browser, yes. But you can simulate it. Simulation is painfully slow because it takes like a couple of minutes to run. But once it runs, you can use it fluidly. But there's a bit more configuration you need to do for Android, or if you're using a Mac, iPhone, the iOS version comes like almost default. You just type in one line. But if you're not, if you want to do Android, you can do Android Studio. But you can't if you want to do iPhone apps, you've got to have a Mac, unfortunately. But you can do Android on the Mac as well. I might touch on that towards the end to just kind of give you an idea of what it's like. Oh, okay. All the devices. I see. I didn't know that. Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay. All right. Cool. I don't have a Windows PC now because I used to, but unfortunately. Okay. Cool. So yeah, if you have it running, you should see this. This is handy because if you want to restart the app and just do things and little console commands, debugging the app, this is great. It's a great little view for it. For now, we're just going to quit the app, which, let's just clear that out of the way. Let's just see if we can minimize this window. Right, I want to try and give us a true mobile view. I when I'm developing mostly, I try and do this, but it seems to be just to give me an idea of what it would look like on the phone. You don't have to do this. Oh, I guess it's closed now. But yeah, it just it helps to kind of have a look. All right, so if we look at the files it's created, for most different apps that you develop, you kind of go through this. You have a bower in there, you've got Node and all stuff like that. The bits that you probably, hang on, let's try again. This is where it's probably going to fail, yes. Can you read that? Like, it's difficult. No, yes, too far gone with Sublime. I'll tell you what, we will go through it from here. Right, so the very first folder that is like the most important folder basically is the www folder. As you guess, that's where your app lives. And in there, you just have your basic CSS images, JavaScript, and stuff like that. The strange folder there, the libraries, as you guess, holds the Ionic. I mean, for now, because it's the default, that's the only library, but you can get other libraries in there as you go along. And then for the JavaScript, so part of just kind of glossed across. Angular is a big part of Ionic. So if you know Angular, you probably just know Ionic straight away, because all the kind of the development patterns that you do with Angular, you can do with Ionic. So if you know how to use the UI router in Angular, you know how to do it in Ionic. If you know how to do, like, I don't know, just page templates and different kinds of Angular directives and services, it's going to be the same in Ionic. Ionic has tons and tons of directives you can use, which just makes life a lot easier when developing for phone. Stuff like can swipe for swipe, or gesture controls and all stuff like that. This is pretty much just the basic folder structure. And if you want to say, if you find a cool JavaScript library that you want to use, like animate.css, if you want to add some animations to your app, you can just install it, and it does it for you. So whatever you can do on the web with JavaScript and CSS, you kind of can with Ionic. There are a few restrictions you got to just keep in mind. And like not forgetting to use the vendor directories with CSS, vendor prefixes, because some mobile browsers don't do CSS3 well, so it's just nice. Keep that in mind. For example, on the iPhone, you can't, if you don't vendor prefix it, animations and transitions don't work. That's something that painfully had to find out. But most libraries are good enough, as in they just do it for you. And then there are other folders where we won't touch on today, but again, I'll look forward you to resources to find out. So like plugins and platform, those two folders, the platforms, as you probably guess, just holds the libraries for the platform you want to build on. So if we just compare, just have a look. iOS there. If you did add an Android platform, which will go over towards the end, it will also show up there. So that's it. Let's have a quick look again. Yeah. So this is that's going to be difficult to see. It's a bit better. Yeah. All right. So there's not really a lot here. You can go ahead and start straight away from this template. This is where mostly I start, because it just has bare basics. But let's have a look at the other template, and I think it's called a tab view. Let's just quickly. Right. This is right. So we're in Ionic. No, we want to quit this and get out of this folder, and then we try and run that command again. I don't want to type it all out. Where is it? There we go. We want to run this again, but instead, this time, we want to have example 2. And then, right. So instead of blank, we want to change the template to be tabs, which is which is pretty cool. The tabs one, because you get to see. Oh, that's a lot faster. yeah, the tab one is effectively an app. You can see most apps kind of have this kind of flow to them. So. Is it going fast for everyone as well? So yeah, if you're on Windows, you probably won't get that. Really? Oh, I don't use Windows, so I thought I guess you won't be able to run it because it needs kind of Xcode and Mac libraries. But as we found out, you can do it in Visual Studios. Right, so let's have a look at what this one looks like. Oh, I gotta go into the directory. And this one. Can everyone see that? No. Imagine this is the phone. Right. So yeah, that's pretty much it, and you can tab across as you would on most devices. So with such a one-line command, you already have a very semi-powerful app, and you can do stuff like that. Really nicely done. And honestly, most people kind of would start off here because it just has navigation. But yeah, none of this is functional. They're all just pages and views. It's not pulling through any form of data, but it's very easy to just then, kind of hook stuff onto here. But can everyone at least scaffold this page and have a look? No, is it still loading? It's getting there. Okay.
Quick question. I've got it just running in the browser, which just gives you a simple thing about all the tabs and queries. To run it in like Android,
Yeah.
do I need to add a platform? It doesn't add iOS automatically.
If when you're ready to do it on the phone, transfer it, put it over, you will need to add a platform for it, and that's an Ionic command.
Do you need Xcode to run?
For Mac, yes, you would. Yeah, there is a on the documentation. I think I added it on the blog post I read. There's very few platform documentations that go through how to add it on the devices.
I thought you said that you have to have a Mac to develop for the app for the Apple.
Yes, yeah, but as I find out now, you can simulate it with Visual Studios if you're on Windows. I didn't think you could, but for Mac, if you have a Mac, it's painlessly easy. There's literally nothing. Just install Xcode and the npm, and you're ready to go. For Android on a Mac, you can just get the SDK from Google, but I just install Android Studios, which does it all for me because it has a nice graphical user interface.
Yeah. I've got it on here. I'm just wondering if I can get to because it shows in the browser, it doesn't have any of this nice tab and scrolling.
With this, if you want this view, you can. This is the browser. So if you run Ionic Serve, it opens up the browser and shows you this. But if you want to see on the phone, you can do that as well.
Yeah, it doesn't for me. It just is a really simple.
It doesn't? Are you running the blank template or are you running the tab template?
Yeah.
If you have the tab template, this is what the tab template kind of shows you. And are you in Chrome? I don't know how.
Chrome, yeah.
Click on the chat tab at the bottom. So it's like your Chrome window, right at the bottom, you've got a toolbar.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, so Ionic is just a web view, so you should be able to see this in whatever web kind of framework you're in. So that's pretty much it. And if we have a look at the platform, the folders it gives you, like you can see it again, it's the same. The only difference will be in when you go in here in the folder, you see templates. And then in here, you probably see little partials to be able to view your view each page. So you can follow this design pattern, which is it would work, and there's nothing wrong with that. Or you can start from blank and build your own. It's the flexibilities are all they're up to you, basically. So this is the Ionic way of doing things. This is the vanilla way of developing or scaffolding Ionic apps. Like I mentioned, I like to use a tool called Yeoman, a nice little generator scaffolding app called Yeoman. Let's have a look if we can show everybody Yeoman. You don't have to use this, but honestly, this makes life so much easier. And it doesn't just work with Ionic, it works with a lot of other things as well. It works with Angular if you want to do it, generate quick Angular apps. It works with tests if you want to React. There's tons and tons and tons of stuff, and anyone can write one for it. If you want to develop Chrome extensions, for example, it will scaffold you a nice blank Chrome template. Now it even does WordPress, that kind of stuff. So Yeoman is really cool, but we just are interested in this. So this is the Ionic framework for it. And if you want to get started with Yeoman, it's just npm install Yeoman. It's that easy. I think it's either Yeoman or Yo. It's Yo, yeah. npm install Yo. Yeah. And there you go. 3 easy step. Yo, it is Yo, yeah. And if you want to then do generate the app, it would just be Yo, and you add the name of the app that you want to run. In our case, would be Ionic, the Ionic generator. Let's have a look and show you how that would look like. So, if you have it installed, you should, and type in Yo, you can get a nice little view like this. And it works just by asking you questions on like what you want. So these are the ones, the generators I use, everyday kind of stuff, and kind of have them all there. And we just say, yeah, we want to start with the Ionic one, and it goes through and just asks you questions of what you want in your app. So we can say, yes, we want some SAS in there. And this is Cordova. Now, when you develop on Cordova, say if you want stuff like you want to get the battery, you want to get a network of the platform it's running on, you need the Cordova plugins. Up until now, before Yeoman, I had to go do it manually, but Yeoman just adds it for you. Just use the arrow keys and just say, yeah, sure, I want a splash screen in my app, I want a status bar, I want battery, I want it all. And just go through and add it all. And it just does it for you. And I think this is also used when it's building permissions on on the app. So if you say you want contacts and it's just a note-taking app, someone might not install it. So keep that in mind. And then the templates we were using, it asks you which one you want to base it off. You can do tabs, side menu, which we didn't actually see, but it's a side menu. That's what it is. It just has an hamburger icon and just opens up a side menu. Or you can just do the tabs one. I like to just start from that one. What's that? Oh, okay. So basically, I need to create a new folder, go in there, and then do it. So this doesn't do it for you. Ionic creates the photos for you, but this doesn't. Just quickly go through that again. This is splash screen, it's fine. And there you go. It just npm installs it all for you. And the reason why I like using Yo is because it has a certain development workflow that I'm used to. I mostly work with Ruby, so what that means is as I work, I can use the console, I can create generators, I can use the generators, but I work in an app kind of view. The work I do is not is compiled effectively, if that makes sense. So it's all structured nicely. It's not all just in one folder that you kind of have to do with. So I'll show you when everything's scaffolded. But it creates nice little folders. It creates a nice workflow for you to just be able to develop a lot faster on. And then there are little helpful things as well that it does for you, like it adds grunt, and which means every time you add a CSS file, it automatically injects it into your HTML, which is really cool because that's one thing I hate for when you're developing on like Ruby. All the JavaScript files you add automatically are injected into your HTML, but on here they are not. So you gotta go and do script in the header tags. But using Yeoman, it does it for you. But you can also do that with vanilla Ionic using Gulp. I do prefer Gulp, but this uses Grunt to do things. And they're just package managers, and they're task runners, basically. They just help stuff like compile all my SAS to CSS, CoffeeScript to JavaScript, and that kind of stuff.
The Gulp equivalent of Yeoman is called Slush.
Slush?
Yeah, it's just been
released
about 2 months ago.
All right.
So there's not the same amount of generators, but it's getting there.
Slush. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, that's one thing I do on most apps, remove grunt and try and put in Gulp. Yeah.
Do you use Yeoman as the project goes on, or just at the beginning to
it's just at the beginning.
Okay.
At the beginning, you use Yeoman, it does it for you.
And what's the advantage of Yeoman over just downloading a what's called like a boilerplate?
Well, there's configurations with Yeoman, so like we've just seen,
So
we can go through.
Those 4 questions.
Exactly.
That's what it's adding.
Yeah, if you do the Angular template, there's even more configurations there. That's the one I like because there are certain apps I don't want certain elements to, and I don't have to go do it manually. It just does it for you, and it's really, it's not quick to do it, but you don't have to do it. You can just go grab a coffee, come back, and your app is ready to go, and you can just start developing.
How often do you start a new project? Because I tend to start new projects, and it maybe Yeoman saves you an hour, but I've only doing that for 3 months.
Well, the kind of projects on the mobile lifecycle, projects can be small. Like if you want to do like a Notepad app, you can do like a Notepad app. If you want to do like recently, I just finished an app called Bar Voyage, which uses like Google Maps. That took like a week to do, and that's just done. I can come back to it, but then the app lifecycle can be quite small because there's not a lot to it. Like whenever like I'm browsing my phone and I find an app I want and it doesn't quite work how I want it, but I just want a single feature, I can quickly use Ionic and just make my own app. Like make my own to-do app, for example, and I just have it, and I can use the APIs from Google to integrate into my life. So they are quite small. You can do this maybe a couple of times a month. It's not a hassle. You can do it yourself, but often you kind of tend to miss something, or library has been updated, you're not aware of.
Starting a lot of
like tiny small apps. Yeah, and it's great practice as well. Just flood the market with your apps. It's fun. Nobody downloads it, but hey, it's great practice. You build a portfolio. Every kind of weekend, I just start a fun app. It goes nowhere, but I learn a few techniques that I can take onto the bigger project. So this is taking a bit longer than I thought it would, but I guess we can just go ahead and try out other things whilst it downloads, I think. So let's go back into that example. Yeah. Is it gonna finish in 2022? Just expect it to just jump to the end now. No? Okay. So yeah, we're gonna have to use Vim. Please bear with me. It's gonna be difficult to see. But if you can't see anything, just let me know and I could go change to the Vim configurations, but it kind of scares me to go in there. So yeah, I got it working perfectly with my boss's config, and yeah. So if we just enter the www folder and open, ooh, that's not good. I wonder. Do I have my Vim running? Is it gonna open up? It's no better either. Okay. Yeah. On this one instant, we probably might use Sublime. You know how to, anybody know how to change the styles of Sublime? Color scheme, is it? What's the brightest? Somber.
That's the Monica bright.
That one?
It's like no, the ones
Sort of finished. I'm just waiting
that one?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I guess that's okay.
not what I was expecting.
No? Right, let's
Maybe light rather than bright.
open up where we want to go. Folders. Example one. Oh, do it from here. All right. Yes, I guess I can make this big. That's a bit better. That's not better. Pardon? Oh, there you go. Nice is on. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This is better. So this is the default template that when you the blank template you use when you render a blank when you generate a blank Ionic view. There is not a lot to it. This is pretty much it. Just 30 odd lines. But there are just go away. Just important kind of things that are in there that you need to be aware of. Cordova, we spoke about, and what it does is in there. The Ionic bundle is in there. Your CSS. So everything you kind of haven't used this for a while, so this is going to happen updating all the packages. So yeah, all the kind of things you use. You need the crucial elements you need to just have a very bare bone Ionic app with no craziness to it. It's there, and there's a small little Angular bit as well, which just gets you going. That is also there. Most of the problems I found when I was started with this is it was so much. How do I structure my app? What is the best way to go about doing this? Where should things go? Do I just create one folder and have 5,000 lines of JavaScript and that kind of stuff. Obviously, that's not a good idea. But the ways that I've been seeing most other people doing it, once you get a workflow that works for you, obviously go with that if that makes you more productive. But the kind of mobile development ecosystem, they kind of tend to use a folder for every feature. So if you're creating a login feature, you kind of use a folder, and within that folder, you can have login.html, login.css, and login.js, and it stays within a login folder. That's one way of doing it. The other way is you keep with this structure, and then within the JS folder, you can have controllers, services, and directives for Angular, and then you can have login.css in the CSS bit as well, and then you can create templates. So there are many different ways to go about doing it. I kind of just tend to use. It depends on the project, but if I'm doing a small one like this, I don't tend to bother with that because there's only going to be like 2 files, which is not, I don't need to create 4 folders for 2 files. So I just tend to just have it like this and just quickly do it. It normally takes about 50 lines to accomplish what I want. So if you're doing a small project, by all means, you don't have to change anything. But if you're doing a big project or even a medium-sized project that's going to be on production, kind of think about your folder structure, not just for you, but like 6 months down the line, that you're going to be able to jump back in and get developing. So what we want is this. Mostly, let's just start with the elements of Ionic, right? So if anyone's ever used Bootstrap, they're quite aware of the grid in Bootstrap, right? So the grid is great in Bootstrap, but Ionic's grid uses a flexbox from CSS3, which there isn't so much a defined 12 grid you got to be aware of. It works more in percentages, so much so that so I want this to be column 1. I want this to be 3 columns, I want this to be 4. It's more, I want this to be 10%, 20%, that kind of stuff, which gives you a lot of flexibility as well, as you get to see. So let's just say, let's just have, no. Right. Actually, border 1 pixel. So what we're just going to do is, no, maybe not that, yeah. Yeah, maybe we don't need this actually. We're just going to try and generate a few grids so you can have a look at the much cooler stuff that the grids you kind of get. So this is the kind of the autonomy of a page, if you like, in Ionic. And the Ionic documentation is great for stuff like this. It explains everything in detail. You can see that that's an Angular directive. It explains what that does and how to go about using it. But to just quickly kind of skip over this, that's just going to be your header bar you see at the top. And this is your contents page. So if you just want to carry on using this structure, as you build your stuff for the content, if you're building like a single page app, it probably would go in there. I do not like using those Ionic commands. I just like using HTML instead of like Ionic content or Ionic header, which there are HTML classes versions of, so you don't have to use it like that. I'll put the link to the documentations which talks about all of it. So I wonder if this still works. Yes. So we just have a row, and we can say on that row we have a column. In that column we say 20% of it, and times that by 5. Yeah, there we go. So we got, hopefully you should be able to, when we save this, is the app actually running? Nope. Right, there we go. Refresh this. You see it. There you go. Don't know why it's not making the border.
Did you call it CSS file?
Didn't save it. There you go. And it's just, it depends. It fills up the page with however many columns there are. It's just standard CSS. If we remove one of those, it should update and just fill out the space, hopefully. Like that. So it's pretty cool. I like this kind of flexibility, and you can read more about Flexboxes on the W3 site or specification. It's pretty cool. I try to use it now mostly with projects I work with. So that's, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because it's not strictly speaking Ionic, but it's a new thing that you can do in Ionic that go ahead and utilize it fully. And next, let's just say we want lists. So we want a list, and we want li of the list item. Can you see that? I need to zoom in a bit more. There we go. List item. It's gonna work. No. Get a couple of items in here. Now this is where we're gonna use a feature on phones, gestures, swipe. Everybody loves adding swipe to everything on phones these days. So we'll just start off just doing a very basic list, and we can, so we just have item 1, item 2, I should have stopped at 3. Let's have a quick, right. Okay, save this. Refresh the page. There you go. Nothing pretty, just does it. And yeah, it's any sum of, you can style this any way you want. It's it's not. It's still HTML and still CSS and it's still JavaScript. There is no clever Ionic thing to it. One thing as well, I think we can do, is we can add, I think it's a directive. Let's say true. So this is Ionic directives that just, maybe we could put it on a list actually, that enables swiping of items on a certain list. I'm not I always emulate on phones when I do this, so I'm not sure if the browser is going to do it well, but we can have a look. Yeah, so we can, do we need to make that any bigger? No, I think that should be okay. And then we can add buttons. So these are the directives which I don't use often, but you can use if you want. Is the Ionic options directive, for example. and it's just a little tiny buttons. You know the buttons you get at the end of a list that says you can delete this list, view this list, or do stuff. That's just like an option button. So on Bootstrap, you might be aware of colors that you use, like I think it's danger for red, success for green, and all that kind of stuff. There's Ionic ones. There is light. They're quite. Actually, I think it's a good idea to show you the Ionic. Documentation. So yeah, don't be shy to visit the Ionic documentation. I have it, every day open. It helps to just go through most things. On here, you can copy and paste their examples if you'd like, but they mostly just talk about the CSS elements, and we're not going to do these because you can follow along here and do it. So these are the equivalent to the colors, like balanced, energized, and these stuff. But you can go ahead and, in your spare time, just go through and see what Ionic is about and have a look at these options. The good thing is about this is it doesn't treat it so much as part of the web. It tries and makes it as if it's it's an actual mobile app. So it only exists in the phone. So all of the little cool app tricks you get, it tries to get that working using JavaScript and CSS.